That's what I was looking for.
Okay, Karen's on the ball. Or did you do that?
Karen.
Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi, guys. Glad to see you all this afternoon.
Good to see you. We have some guests with us today, a guest with us.
I think I'm the only one, yeah. JR hasn't made it, he was in the spring, so.
Cool. Well, welcome. You guys all get a chance to look at the minutes. Errors, corrections, motions to approve, please.
I so move to approve.
Thank you, Larry.
Really good, Amy.
Thank you. All right.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, we got minutes. Cool. Public hearings, we don't have any. Down under committee business, we tabled the Teller County Coalition discussion because Dave had an issue, but we have
Scott?
Scott Adams. Yep.
What's the last name, Scott?
Adams.
Adams, Scott Adams. So you're on the board with the coalition?
I am, yeah.
Okay. And we had proposed, and so did Dave, proposed this meeting to just kind of refamiliarize what the county was doing
Hello.
with what.
There's JR.
There's
Thank you.
JR.
I just did that.
Had,
We got an empty seat right here, right next to the master board.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know what's going on. The committee sort of dwindled during COVID. And about a year ago, we kind of set down an application to fill some of the slots on the board. JR and I and an architect named Scott Blosser jumped on at that point. You were on before, JR? No, you're new too.
I've been on for about a year.
Yeah, so we were all new.
new to it.
Yes, Linda Johnson and Dave Martinek, both were the standing committee members, and they've stayed on as the president and the secretary treasurer. And so there was a lot lost in their continuity in terms of moving on with stuff, things like that. Right now, the thing we're trying to get done is certified
Local government.
certified local government. We just have completed the plan. We've been working on that through pretty much this whole year. We only meet quarterly, so it's not like a lot happens, but we've just completed that. We expect that to go to the county commissioners within a month or so to start the process of making Teller County a certified local government, because it's not at this point.
And that's the preservation plan, right, Scott?
Yeah, that's a preservation plan that spells out who, how, what.
Objectives.
Yeah,
Sure.
what objectives are. Yeah, and I guess I should tell you, our scope pretty much excludes Woodland Park, Cripple Creek, and Victor, because those are the towns and entities that already have this kind of thing going on. We're focusing on the unincorporated areas of Teller County. We're trying to figure out what we'll do with Goldfield and a few other places. And then one of our questions, and why we're here, is how would we work with the local town historic committees and either assist, be a voice with the county, coordinate with you guys, be an asset, not a detriment or an oversight. That's not why we're here. We're strictly looking ourselves at the unincorporated properties and processes.
Understood.
Yeah.
So there's 5 of you guys on
There's
the,
5 of us, yeah.
Five
JR,
of you.
you're an architectural engineer, right?
Archie, yeah. And I'm also on the Cripple Creek Historic Preservation.
as well.
And, yeah, at this time, there's little need to cooperate. There's more just an awareness of, okay, what are you doing? What are we doing? And that's why we're here, is to find out, is there any collaborative projects that we could
Right.
team up with or not?
Yeah, we're just supporting getting that through by local government. That's-
Well, we have our CLG
Yes,
here.
you guys
And
do.
you guys are
Cripple Creek
working on
does.
your CLG,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
And there used to be Dee Breidenfeld used to
Mhm.
sit on this board, and she was kind of a liaison, if you will, between the coalition and us. And so we did have an
Yeah.
overlap, and we did have an up-to-date, so that was, of course, been a few years ago,
Yeah.
but then like COVID, like you said, COVID happened, and like a bomb went off and everything disappeared.
So that's where we are. Scott Wasser is a local architect,
Okay.
who's also on the committee. I'm I'm not a civil engineer, I have a civil engineering degree. I flew airplanes in the Air Force, I finished that piece of it. And then Linda Johnson is part of the Cripple Creek Victorian group, and David Martinek is a realtor. So
Right.
that's the group.
Right. And we're familiar with several of you guys.
Yeah. And I work on I'm a part of the Pikes Peak Historical Society. I'm the vice president of that board. Run the museum, donation run, volunteer run the museum in Florissant, and the cemetery in Florissant.
So Steve was the impetus to help with this bridge. You guys are aware of the
Yep,
Criscola Bridge and the whole. And so even though that's right outside the city limits of Woodland Park, UPass Historical Society was kind of the one that it was done, who did it.
I use their name.
To do it.
Yeah.
And then with the hope that Woodland Park's historical group could assist and help you guys
Yeah.
with that ocean to ocean highway and that whole concept of that bridge
Mhm.
and the history that it involves because it came through Woodland Park. So that was one of the things that we thought.
Yeah, and that's one of the emphasis items actually that we have, because, everybody talks about buildings, but buildings are going away, buildings are changing. Historical marks like that, and even if the bridge wasn't there, the fact that there was that bridge there, the things that happened around that bridge, it's part of history, as well as like things like old school locations, other things that are being overcome by expansion and progress need to be remembered. So one of the things we're really trying to do in the county is think about how would we memorialize those kind of places. For example, the southwest corner at 24 and 67 going toward Cripple Creek, there was a school there, there was the primary school, but it's not there. That building that's there now is probably going to go down soon.
It is.
So what do we do to remember? You can't put a plaque on the building because it's not going to be there. So we're trying to figure out how we would memorialize those things that would make sense, not be obtrusive, but be appropriate.
And of course, the depot there, Divide, is under your.
Yeah, that's an issue. Well, the depot's under work. The community building right there is being looked at to be torn down. And not that it's a great building, but it's culturally significant in the things that happened in that building. So it's not just the building, it's the things that
It is the
happened around.
backbone of Divide.
Yeah, it's the things that happened around there, the memories that were created there, that thing kind of encompass, and then what will happen to those, and when your grandpa's driving with the kids, what you say to them as you go by. So those are the things that we're looking at, and we don't have a budget. We're supposed to have a budget come this next year. We'll see how that works.
Is there something in the budget from the county for you guys?
That's,
I
We're
mean,
working with
they-
the commissioners.
But I mean, they should be finalizing it here shortly, right?
The one thing that I recognize that is different, I mean, Cripple Creek has its own ordinances, so therefore we're covered. And we have plaques on almost every historical building, which is a phenomenal incentive for us to say, hey, plaques work. The thing is, when we're in the county, we're spread out, and it's hard to even recognize, a location where people would even know that there was something historic happening. So what I think there might be an overlap is that if you all have plaques, we have plaques that, as you were saying, there's a plaque in the building, but no one would know it was there unless we had some sort of directory. And I thought, and I don't know if you all have this, but if you had a directory of historic locations. And maybe we have a central area where there is information that could be available, not just brochures, but an actual map that says, hey, maybe Tava, where you've got people walking through and, oh, look, I didn't know there was a historic site, 5 miles up the road. I don't know if you have that inside your city or not, where you have a historic reference and say, if you go up this street 3 blocks, you'll see a historic site. And if it's not in the mainstream, you'd never even know it was there unless you had a directory of some sort. So the one thing I thought we could collaborate on is some sort of directory that you would have that we don't have, that we could fully, appreciate. And so I think the commissioners would appreciate. The only building we've recognized inside, City Hall in Goldfield. It's a beautiful building. It's sitting there. It's already got a plaque, but no one would know it was there. It's not on the main street. So it's like, how do we even,
Draw attention to it.
have anybody appreciate it? So that's one thing that, as Scott said, we're not sure how we can collaborate or have any kind of joint projects, but that would be one. You think of any others, Scott?
No, well, there's, the county website has a place for history, and that's one of the tenets of the county, remembering the history. So we talked the other day about expanding that website, developing it, putting things like this on it, and that would be a place to go to. If you come to Teller County, you see a website or a history of Teller County or something like that, and a Google search would send you to that. And then we can collaborate and link with things. And I don't know if Woodland Park has that, and I don't know if it does either. So those are things that, tourism is big now. I forget the number I heard the other day, how many people that come here come as tourists. But it's second to gambling, I think.
Are you guys plugged in as the coalition to Saving Places and the annual workshop at the State Historical?
Well, that's one of the things that we're trying, that's a target for us.
That's coming up to register here shortly. Correct, you can
You can
register now.
register right now.
Register right now. Yeah, and that actually, it's going to be down in Colorado Springs, so you don't have to travel to Denver this year. Oh, first time in a long time. And it's usually held the last weekend in January, first weekend of February. Is that right, guys? So that's,
Yeah, we have discussed that. That's one of the reasons we're looking for a budget. Be able to go to.
you can get some scholarships if those are still available.
Yeah, the deadline to submit for the scholarships actually tomorrow, so. Sorry.
Well, but
yeah.
yeah, but you wouldn't necessarily need a budget.
No.
Or ask Dan Williams and Company what the heck they're gonna.
Well, I'm sure that we can work that out, even if there's not a budget at that time. Yeah, they've been pretty cooperative. Eric Stone is our primary contact. We have met, comes to our meetings. We've met with all of them for different things when we presented the CLG plan to them. They were all at that meeting, so, yeah.
Okay.
And they appear to be cooperative, let's just say.
Okay, well, they got things going.
Yeah.
And Steve?
One thing we did in Park County, since everybody has cell phones, we have a automobile thing, and you look at your cell phone and it'll tell you in 500 feet this, and we got it where you could pull over and spots where you can pull over and all that. And it explains everything that was there.
Yeah. I'm not sure that we think we're that group. At this point, we're more focused on what are the sites, and we aren't the ones developing the history that goes behind them, I guess. Depend on people like the Pikes Peak Historical Society and town folks that know what's going on in the different places, I think, for that, because we are not the experts around the county, so.
Would you guys think you'd have an interest in having a liaison between groups or anything like that?
think that's why we're here.
To
Yeah,
stay,
that's
to
right.
stay more.
That's why we're here to engage in that process, yes. And so-
We only meet once a quarter at
Right.
this time. We all meet every month.
And we also work with the UPass Historical Society. So there are some areas of overlap, but there are some,
Mhm.
but I mean, we have, we've invested ourselves and our time in the Ocean to Ocean Highway and the bridge endeavor. So that's something too that we would welcome being involved in or participating in or supporting somehow as well. Cemeteries have become a thing of ours, and Steve and Linda have been quite active in getting those
Mhm.
refurbished, those types of things.
I've seen those efforts in the paper, for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's some areas of overlap and some joint interests that we could, even if we just had interaction twice a year or something, but something on a regular basis, so there's a touchstone, so we're not in rabbit holes working.
That's that's our intent.
Okay.
Not our concern, but our desire is to make that happen and be cooperative and aware of what's going on. If you don't know, you can't help, or you can't say, hey, we're already working on that, you guys don't need to, or you got it, you don't need it. There's just a lot. So I think that's where we would like to be, and we want to, because JR is on the Cripple Creek Committee. I'm out in Florissant on that historical, because we have that overlap also, and so we didn't really have, Dave is here in town, but it's not, so.
That would be fairly convenient for Dave to
Yeah.
be the liaison for us.
Yeah.
Because his office is only 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
Pretty close to David's office.
Yeah.
There's GR. Ah, yes.
So, and he intended to be here, but he.
Yeah, and because it's been something we've been trying to put together for the last few months, actually. But would it be, I'm just brainstorming, would it be beneficial to exchange minutes at all? That type of thing, or just go through a liaison? I mean, it's just a thought.
I think a liaison would work. Right now, we have yet to have much success with anything we've done other than prepare to have success.
Yeah.
So we have no projects other than the city hall in Goldfield, which again, it's already been designated historic, but correct? I mean,
Yeah, the only
way back
substantive-
when.
The only substantive thing we've done so far is to get plan forward or decided to move that plan forward to the county. That's pretty much it.
And the certified local government will give us access to funding, but as of yet, no one has come forth to ask for funding. I mean, we can't impose a demand on anyone, so all we can do is express that, hey, we're here if you want us. Just like in Cripple Creek, it's like, we got money, but you've got to apply. We don't go out and just designate anything particularly. It's the owners of the property that have the rights to say we want it designated or not. And I'm sure that's true here, isn't it? too?
It is. So you guys probably have a form and a process that somebody would fill out to accomplish that?
Not until we get,
Yeah.
Certified local.
Yeah, we aren't.
We're the advisory board, that's all we are. We have no forms yet, right?
Not that I know of. The planning commission
Now, the
has
state
sent us
does.
a few things that have been sent to them for zoning changes or improvements or something like that. We've been given those to review
Okay.
from a historical perspective, but no, we don't. And that showed up on their forms.
So just
We don't
for
have anything
clarification,
yet. Yeah.
we have only been a CLG for a handful of years. We've been in existence. They created this committee, if you will, in the 90s, and it was actually populated in the year 2000. But we did not get our CLG till, I can't remember exactly when, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Let's just say finally we got our CLG, or maybe 5 years ago at this point. But it did not predicate, we didn't need a CLG to be able to allow residents or people who own property to submit an application. We were able to operate. the CLG only allowed us to participate with DOLA, additional funds, be kind of step up on the scale with what we got exposed to, I think. And I'm probably not explaining that well, Karen or CJ, but the point being is that you don't have to be. The CLG is a heck of a commitment because all of a sudden now staff has reports to do. For us here at the city, the staff is responsible, and we always drug our feet because we did not want to impose those additional requirements onto the city until we had a need. And when the Main Street organization came along, they got a leg up if we had a CLG. So there became an impetus to apply for the CLG at that point. But a CLG is not your gateway to being able to be a historical organization and do a bunch of things the way I understand it.
But do you have ordinances within the city that you have to, that you're responsible for ensuring compliance with? Like in Cripple Creek, we have ordinances that were 1992 or thereabouts when it became a gambling town, and we're in the process of looking at revising those to make them current with what we'd like to see the city have control over. And we don't need in fact, we could not even apply for a CLG, I don't think, because of the city government overshadows that or undershadows it. I don't know that, I didn't know that you could have a CLG if you were an agency of the city government. I didn't know that.
I don't know.
Excuse me. A voice from across the room.
Yes, Karen.
Good afternoon. I think I can, I don't know that I'll help, but I probably won't make this conversation more confusing. My understanding with certified local governments is there are potentially some advantages to being that CLG, and I would defer to our partners at History Colorado around what those benefits are. And I know they would encourage you to consider pursuing that or to continue pursuing that. And then within Woodland Park, yes, we do have in our regulations, our city code, a section that established the Historic Preservation Committee and outlines criteria and requirements for reviewing nominations for historic designated structures and such. And we'll be happy to send that to you guys at the county if you would like, or a link to where it is on our website so that you can see what it is that we already have in place. So in Woodland Park, we have both an ordinance that outlines and specifies some things, and then we're also already a designated certified local government.
Okay.
And then I will add, with being a CLG, one of the things I do understand is it does put other responsibilities on the CLG, and that's where we definitely need to have so many meetings a year and have to have documented minutes from those meetings, publish agendas. There's things like that they look for, and then every year we do a very straightforward report back to the state in terms of what were our activities for the year. In fact, CJ just finished that for us back in October. Hopefully that helps.
So does the city of Woodland Park give out funds? Do you have a budget for funds
There's a line item in the city budget
in the city budget?
for the Historical Preservation Committee.
And on top of that, you can get state funding through the CLG designation.
I wouldn't necessarily
no.
say us, it's more
No, but
like
the
homeowner,
applicant.
Yeah. We can promote property owners to say, hey, there's some opportunities. And then we as, if we have a project or something, theoretically, we can apply for
specific grants.
for specific projects and things of that nature. But yeah, I'm
Well, our only source of funds would be if the county commissioners put a line item in their budget for us, and that's going to be a small amount, I'm sure.
Well, we have the same thing though with the CLG. You get the opportunity to help people apply for grants and access to the Colorado history grant process easier. This is the way we understood that from. So, and we haven't pushed much because we don't have much to offer.
right, gotcha. Well, and did you guys get minutes and notes and history of the things that had been done by the coalition up to?
Linda has that info, right?
I mean, you.
Yeah, Linda and Dave are the repositories of that.
Okay.
They are the continuity through it,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that stuff may exist. We get minutes once in a while from what we do. It's not sporadic though. It's not don't have anybody sitting down taking notes.
You don't have staff support from the county for your
That's true.
committee, do you?
Correct.
And, because if I remember reading through the county resolution that created this, we in the city of Woodland Park have staff support, and it is a city, committee, and the city steps up and gives us, I mean, we don't get a lot of money, but we get a few $1,000 here and there, depending on what we're, but we have some
This is
specific
not
things.
invaluable, these people. know.
Right, so it's seen as a city endeavor. Okay, now, whereas the county is written, there's a whole lot of onus, I believe, put on the 5 committee members to be your own secretary, to write your reports, to do all those sorts of things. So perhaps you ought to ask Eric for a little help.
The support we get is occasionally getting the meeting announced on the county website. We try to make sure that happens because that's a legal requirement, but it's.
And if you guys are successful getting the CLG coming through, those requirements are going to increase, just as
Oh, yeah.
Karen was saying with,
Number of
and the
meetings that
reports and-
appear, like, yeah, we have to have our minutes up, so like when Lori signs these, I scan them in, send them to Lindsay Fleming with the state, and she files those away, so those are requirements that we have to do.
Can you disband a CLG easily? Or are we trapped?
I don't know.
I know that we as an entity wanted to make sure that we had good reasons to move forward to apply to become a CLG before we finally stepped across that threshold, because we knew back in the day when we first started talking about it, that it was going to require some extra work. And,
But obviously staff has to be on board too. 'cause,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not a sole decision of this group, it was a joint decision of staff in the city and deeming it necessary if we were going to participate with some of the funding that might be available for us, so.
That's good input that we'll take back to Dave, because
Yeah,
Dave has
he's-
been,
Dave's the
that's been
spearhead
his focus throughout this whole thing.
It's
is to
becoming a
cut that.
CLG, well,
It'd be easy to get out of.
Yeah.
But if
It'll
nothing
take us
else,
to
that
get
has
out
been
of it.
worth
It'd be
hearing
easy to
back,
get
to
out
take
of
that back to
All you
Dave.
gotta do is not follow the requirements. And then-
That's fine.
Yeah, you're out.
First, they put you on probation first, and then just continue not to do it, and then they'll say, we don't want you no more.
I think it'd be preferable to just withdraw cordial.
But you really gotta understand the benefit of it.
Yeah.
And at what point then down the road, when you guys put together your long-range plan or your strategic plan, at what point would you apply, or for what purposes would you apply for it? So, I'm just saying.
I think another cool thing too, that like we got set up with the state being a CLG, is we actually had a couple representatives from the state come here. When was that? Last year?
Yeah.
Sometime, but I mean, they held a full seminar, it was like a 3-hour seminar of, the local designation versus the state versus the federal, and, kind of what funding opportunities the applicant would get at this level versus this level, and, the
What
pros
was
and
that, what was her
cons.
name, Fleming? Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lindsay Fleming is the one that
Yeah,
worked
she
with too.
visited us
Oh,
a
awesome.
year ago and explained the steps of funding and.
Oh, cool. So, yeah,
That was obviously prior to us even applying for a CLG.
Sure.
Or
Taking
the
the
first steps
meeting
to
or
it.
second meeting, yeah.
yeah. And that was like held open to the public too. So if you owned a
Oh.
building that was designated and you wanted to take it to the next step, or you wanted to do X, Y, Z and needed funding, so we had 20 people there or so.
Yeah, we did, and we made a point of inviting property owners to come and listen.
Sure. So,
You guys have any words of wisdom, or comments, or questions?
Well, I'm impressed with the number of volunteers you have. Like we have in Cripple Creek, we have 5, and you know, we're appointed by the city council. Is that true with you all too? That's
Yep.
what I saw in the paper. Congratulations. We serve a term, and then, you know, we are responsible for, you know, producing minutes and advising council as to what our recommendations are, but not so much when it comes to granting money. I mean, we're pretty much the final say in granting the money that, it doesn't come from the state, it comes from the local tax revenues that is in the city budget. So right now, that's our only source of funds in Cripple Creek. And as Scott said, we don't have any funding yet for the Teller County.
That we know of. And maybe,
We're gonna look into that though.
It's funny too, because when you come into Teller County, their motto right on the Teller County sign is,
that's what we're saying. Well, and then the county, you know, Eric Stone and Dan especially are concerned, you know, with what's going on with the mine and in terms of preserving the history, whether you preserve the structures themselves or what.
head frames and
The
stuff.
back, yeah, the head frames, whether you preserve those or the buildings, or they want to move them all to one place and say, this is what this was. Well, great, but if you don't have the where it was and how it mattered, it doesn't really.
And you won't be able to get it designated on the state register or national register either once you move it.
Right. Not that that's important and everything, but the history of Teller County is frankly tied up pretty heavily in mining. And so if you don't preserve that, what history do you have left other than the legend, which
It's
is
the
big,
whole,
but it's.
damn near the whole state was built on mining.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, my recommendation is we go talk to
Yeah.
Dave, that Scott and I were here and we had a
Yeah.
valuable conversation and, we'd like to create a liaison, and I think Dave would say, yeah, I'll be the head man on that. And, let's see how we do with our application for the CLG, which is pretty much ready to go. Have we presented it to the Teller County Commission
I
yet?
don't believe so, yeah.
No, so that'll be our next step.
Just know what you're signing up for,
Right, yeah.
because you know they're gonna delegate.
Well, I'm
to you
gonna send
guys
that,
to
I'm
fill it
gonna
out.
send that note to Dave before we have.
Well, and just know that which you as a committee are tasked without staff support, so it's gonna fall on you guys to.
And you can let Dave know if you guys have like other specific questions on what goes into the CLG, like our annual report. He can come into my office and we can go through that together and what we have to do on a monthly basis, things like that. So that'd be super easy.
Okay.
And he has my contact
We'll let
to
you
reach
get
out.
to the rest of your agenda.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
get
know
along
what's
really.
your name. I don't.
I'm J.R. Gatlin, G-H-E-L-I-N.
Thank you so much.
I used to live in Woodland Park. I
Did
was
you?
on the utility advisory
Oh,
board with
yeah.
Kip, and
Okay.
now he's moved up, right?
Mhm.
David, you and I, we should
Yeah.
step out for just 1 minute, could we? He's been sending me emails and I'm going, David, I don't know what you're sending me.
Do you mind if I hang out? It's just kinda like what- I got nothing to do with that.
Happy holidays, everyone.
All
right,
right,
you too.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Jeremy.
Okay, guys, preservation plan.
There's really no updates. I mean, I wanted to take this off the agenda, but I know that's a sticking point for you all here.
We
but
just want to make
I'm
sure,
just joking.
and we want to not
I'm just
lose sight
kidding.
of writing the preservation plan. And I know Steve said he would be a huge integral part of that.
I think the biggest thing for the preservation plan is that, I think we're gonna be talking a lot more about this in January. So if you guys just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, I think there's gonna be some workings with Karen and I in the background, this month in early January and possibly Corey and, then, yeah, we'll talk definitely more in depth on how to start, where to start, and how to get the ball rolling here, so.
Okay, cool.
This is for the whole city, just
Yes.
for clarification.
Yes,
Thank you.
for sure. Okay,
Oh, and I'm
Yes,
sorry,
go
Lori,
ahead.
the last thing with the preservation plan, if you guys just do before the January meetings, that's the next time we're gonna see you, just keep that work plan in the back of your mind, maybe review that, because that's kind of everything that obviously we want to be working on and we want to include in the preservation plan. So just have that fresh for the January meeting, and I think that'll help out a lot, so.
okay. So are you thinking of leading a meeting to help us start getting the preservation plan together? Is that your thought?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like I said, Karen and I just need to sit down first and kind of figure out a game plan on, where to go.
Okay, so,
How to do that.
okay, and so basically what you're saying, the work plan will be the nuts and bolts of some of the items that'll go
Well,
into the.
that's exactly right. And as a committee, we need to make a decision on what route to take to for the preservation plan, whether we, reach out to the state and try to get funding for that consultant that Lindsay talked about
Right.
2 months ago, or,
Mhm.
if we do it in-house, it's gonna be, obviously a lot of work on you all and, staff as well, which we're not averse to, and we're not saying that, but just something to think about as well, so. But like I said, we just need to make a decision on, I'm not saying we, you guys as a.
You're part of it, yeah.
Yeah, make a decision together on kind of what steps to do to keep moving forward, and whether we reach out to the state or do it all in-house, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense? All right. Templeton? I don't need a report. You put a report
She was
together.
asked to put that.
He was asked to put that together, that's right. And the whole idea here, this was collaboration amongst the three of you guys. So this is for CJ,
Cool.
which gives for CJ what we had asked for in terms of.
And the front page is the to-do list.
And the front page is the to-do list.
Awesome.
Current status, to-do.
One of the things we want to point out is that the approved PUD, I think we've mentioned this before, that the approved PUD of 1993 was not complied with. So the city did not hold them to what was approved by the city in 1993. So the hole number 2 is encroaching, we all know this, on the cemetery. And so I think that needs to be made abundantly aware to everybody that, I don't know if that gives us any leverage, I don't know. But I think that when we go to the owner and try to do some of these other things, that we can point out that the PUD was not complied with in the original construction of that.
I don't know if anybody wants to revisit that, but that's the way it is. The green and everything. same
Yeah, it's
track.
all within the whole thing.
So does anybody know, historically, do we have a leg to stand on to, if the city didn't enforce this back in
93.
early 90s, when the earthwork was done, and it encroached on that area? In your vast experience, Karen, have you ever seen a municipality going back and fixing something like this, or trying to?
I've not ever had to deal with this directly. One of the things I have learned the hard way here at Woodland Park is I value all the work that you did on this, Linda, but the twitchy part of me in the back of my head is going, is there something else that was edited, revised after the fact? Is there a different amended approval that I would feel better running any of that down after the fact? And then the other part of, I'd have to read what's there, Laurie, because you're potentially into like legal questions too, because right now, I don't know, I need to do more research before I can really answer it definitively. And how much of this is an issue with the same landowner with where they put stuff relative to the cemetery that appears to be theirs, maybe. It's just, I really can't give you a good answer at the moment.
Well, I guess it needs to, I'm asking, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does it play into us ask additional questions to this plan and the summary that you guys have done, as far as where we go in terms of, okay, it was dedicated, but it didn't say who it was dedicated to when it was originally done. Back in the day when this was developed, it was sold and resold, and we had 2 or 3 different owners of the golf course at the time that probably all got lost with, Spajiki was involved, I can't even remember all the owners' names. And so somewhere maybe in all of that ownership, when they actually came in here and cut into the hill, it was just lost. The whole continuity was lost with the original plan. And so I would hope, it sounds like it could be a little bit of a long-term thing for us. I mean, if we could just get the Frisbee basket moved and some things like that.
Well, what we came up with as our number one item is to talk with Karen specifically, and we're calling it a pre-application meeting. We don't know what else to call it. To see what the steps are that we have to take for replatting and establishing its own parcel and tax number.
Cool.
So that's
Okay.
number one on the to-do list.
Okay, so how do we take what you put together and incorporate this into our work plan?
Since I've not seen this document, I would really like the opportunity to review it. And from there, figure out next steps, because I think at a certain point it's something this committee needs to adopt. But like I said, I would really like to take a look through it first.
Hey, you guys did a lot of work, thank you.
Because it's not gone out in a packet to you all either for review. This is, at least not that I'm aware of.
I can.
Yeah, because we had asked, I had asked Linda and Eric to kind of summarize what we've done and where we've been with this. So Eric's done a lot of the legwork in terms of working with the current owners and survey information, as well as Linda and Steve doing a lot of work on this as well. So three of you guys did a great job. But yeah, if we could electronically get it and share it.
Yeah, and please don't take my comments as any type of resistance. I'm very excited to see what you've put together. I mean, I really, really want to read it and look at it, and I'm just really excited to see it. I just, like I said, feel a little bit at a disadvantage that didn't.
Well, you need to be here, not there.
Again, I would, even if I was in the room with you, I would need time to like look at it and digest it. So, yeah, sorry about that.
Well, we just want to keep moving.
Yeah.
You know, it's been probably a year ago that I went out there in the field, but we'd like to sit down with you guys and talk about zoning, replatting, whatever the case is with this parcel.
So maybe we could even we could even dedicate a meeting or a good chunk of the meeting just to discussion of this too, to see
For sure.
where the best place to go after you guys get a chance to review this report that these guys put together. So thank you very much, guys. Really.
So just curious, Eric, did you find pins for the cemetery on the golf course, or those?
I did.
Oh, wow.
And I have all the, actually, if you want to look at this, this is a legal description. Fred Goff,
My dad.
there, Lori's father, and this was the dedication. We just don't know who it's dedicated to, but you'll see a sketch on there, and I did. I found corners up to 3 feet down that Fred had set, which is just the coolest thing ever.
That's pretty cool.
And they worked and I got the fancy GPS, they worked incredibly well. And John Towner also did an Altus improvement survey,
Mhm.
and I don't think it's of record, but I know his corners are up there, and I think I had identified those on the sketch. Nope, I don't have them turned on, but I found all but one of the corners around this 5 acre, or the cemetery, I'm sorry. How big, it says how big it is, the parcel
The way it was originally surveyed
was,
5.
I want to say 5 acres, but he might have put it inside the sketch too.
4.957 to be exact. So let's say 5 acres.
Yeah.
Was the original.
Yeah,
I wonder
reception.
what the total is now with all the new fancy GPS equipment.
It's very, very close. With your dad running the closure on it and
Mhm.
finding the corners within reason, I would accept those, and the area would be very close to that, I'm
Cool.
sure. I didn't run a closure, but
Sure.
Can I make a copy of this real quick, Aaron?
of course.
Could you make me one too?
Lori?
Yeah.
Before you move to the next topic,
Yes, sir.
I talked to History Colorado just the other day. Actually, they called me for another topic we were discussing, but I asked them, since the Templeton Cemetery is landlocked with private ownership, can we still get it designated? And they said certainly. The only trouble we would have, you would not have trouble getting it designated to the state register, but if you applied for grants, you would have trouble because they like to award the grants and see how the public is benefiting from the grant.
Sure.
And if there's no access, it'd be hard for the public to benefit from it. But as far as getting it designated to the state register, we can still do that no matter if it's landlocked or not.
Okay, cool. And there could be two possibilities for access. So you talked about Amy and John,
That's in her,
Road here.
Linda's report.
but you know, depending on the golf course people and so on and so forth, even the accessibility along the fairway for two could be accessible as well, couldn't it?
That definitely.
So there's two possibilities.
Right, the way they worked with them and let them go where they did, that trail coming down,
Right.
that's really be cool.
Cool, yeah.
So,
Because I didn't get very far with the blue line I have drawn on there, this one,
Okay,
as far as access.
okay,
I pushed real hard, but I never got very much response.
sure.
so I would volunteer to, write up the application for state register if this committee would like that. But we would have to get permission from the landowner.
Sure.
But, he seems, what's his name, Sean
Oh, yeah, he's the manager.
Silas. Silas.
Yes.
Silas.
He's very cooperative and likes the idea of preserving that.
Well, maybe the series of events is after staff reviews you guys' report and then we see kind of where we go and then make that decision to go collectively make the decision to go ahead.
And would we have to do it with locally first? Is it on in city limits?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we would have to go for local designation before we applied for state register.
So that could be part of the plan as we
Yeah,
roll
we
this through the work plan, yeah.
Yeah, we could add that on to Linda's.
Yeah.
thing.
See, we're already changing the damn plan. Okay, cool.
You're not changing the plan. You are revising the proposed plan before it's adopted.
Oh, I stand corrected. Yes, Karen, thank you. You're right.
There's,
Okay, anything else on Templeton? Good, guys, cool.
Thanks for the work on that, guys.
work. Yeah. Okay, we're down to the Junction House, or also known as the Roberts House, guys. Where are we with that grant?
Staff
I
hasn't heard.
know, when I talked to him yesterday, at the end of our conversation about our other project we're working on, I said, by the way, the deadline was October 1st for the submittal. I says, what's going on with it? When do they announce successful applications? And this Friday, they're meeting again. All of November was for people to say, yeah, this is a great project, because they post it wherever they post it, and then there's a comment period, and that was all in November. So now, this Friday, they're going to meet and discuss the applicants, and then the week after this Friday, they're gonna review them all again, and so by the mid-December, we should know.
Hopefully Kimberly's in the office to get the message.
Okay, cool. So it's still at the hopper.
But we're both on the email list, so if Kimberly doesn't get it, we will.
You'll get it. Okay, cool. All right, thank you. We've kept the possibility of 107 West Henrietta with the old community church on here just in case, so any update?
Just that they've met a hurdle on, approval from, city change of use.
Okay.
Am I saying that right? I think I saw a letter saying that's right.
I thought you said hurdle, I was like, no, they got approval. So yeah, they got approval for retail use there, so they can start their business, but yeah, so we approved that, all good.
They're slow to move, but they're around.
Okay, all right, nothing else there, right?
Nope.
Okay. Voss Building. We know the DDA made the suggestion that it should be submitted for demolition. We know that the city is looking into demolition. And Karen and CJ, I'd ask you guys if you know anything about that.
I can't speak for Karen, but I haven't heard anything about that.
I don't have any new information. I did not attend the DDA meeting this morning, so I just don't know if it was talked about again today or not.
I know that Aaron has acknowledged it's a complicated process and there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and it's not easy to take somebody's property, and it's not easy to do this. And I don't think Woodland Park has a history of doing this. I also know, and I just want to stress that if you look at the bylaws and what we as a committee are tasked with, I guess, Karen, I would appeal to both you and CJ that we would have a role in input on that building and on that demolition and any options that could be on the table. And I would implore that this committee be used that way, and that be told to Aaron to interface with us to, we do have a role to play the way the bylaws and the resolution formed this committee. And we have been bypassed officially to make input as to the future, or at least the possibilities that could be considered for the Voss building. And so, the Parks and Rec group got great support and got to be involved with the Avenger acquiring that land and so on and so forth. Why isn't the Historical Preservation Group being embraced for the knowledge and the expertise that we have to be part of this? We aren't. So I just want to express, on behalf of this committee, we have a lot to offer around this, and I would ask staff to support us and get us a seat at this table.
Well said. Well said.
I'm just saying. Okay, anybody else have anything else to say about Voss?
I'm on my committee report. I did visit with a couple council members at the gala at Tweeds. As a casual, visited as a citizen of the city and gave my input. And I shared, I wanted to save, and I wanted to be the visitor center, welcome to Woodland Park on the outside, and expand the visitor center. That's what I shared with them. Both of them said it was almost like it's not worth the money, it's going to be torn down. I said, it's too much. They said it's too much money to invest in the building to preserve it. I said, you don't know that. And then they gave me figures of how much they would have to pay possible for the people that own the land and then for the demolition. But I said, that is what I would like as a personal historian of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I gave my input. I buzzed their ear as a casual citizen at the gala. They weren't ready for it, but I socked it.
Sure. Well, one of my points, and I guess CJ and Karen, if you get a chance, we're trying to educate people as to funding and opportunities that are out there. If you demo, you've got to pay the person for their property value, and then you have to pay to demo the building. So the city, I'm just going to make up numbers. If the city has to pay the property owner $400,000 for the building, and then they have to pay another $200,000, that's taxpayers' money that is going to demolish a building on a footprint that's going to create the most expensive green space in a triangle that might be a whopping 400 square feet. of green space, nothing will be done with it. On the flip side of that, there's monies available through the state funding. Taxpayers wouldn't have to foot the bill to buy the building, per se. We could apply to the state for funds to buy that building. And then we could apply for grants to rehab that building and not demo it. So the point is that the folks that you talk to, Larry, look at it one way, and here we're struggling to educate people that there's funding out there to do other things. We will never have an opportunity again to create a situation that helps define why Highway 24 is shaped like a horseshoe and comes through town. And it was related to the railroad and everything that occurred on that corner. Once it's gone, it's gone. We've just about lost everything in town. It is an opportunity, and for some reason, we fly in the face of our comprehensive plan about attracting people to our region and our history places. We talk it, but we don't walk it. We're full of BS. And we were granted a Main Street designation because DOLA individuals went to bat for us, saying that Woodland Park has a historical ethic. That was BS to begin with, and now we're just continuing to prove that in our narrowness with the way we're considering. So we as individuals have different ways to maybe try to make a difference, and we're working on that. But I'm imploring you guys as staff to represent this group that you're part of, to see if we can't have a seat at the table on this so that all angles can't be looked at. That's all I'm saying.
I heard there's too much water in the basement and the basement is not stable.
I don't give a crap.
That's what they
They should
said.
all be fixed.
I didn't say, well, water could be pumped out and, things should be stabilized. But, I mean, that was the excuse. There's yet the whole basement waterlogged or whatever. So
Or sewer or something.
I don't know.
Thank you. Anything else?
Well, I just agree with everything you said. And I think since it's in the city's bylaws or whatever it is that establish this thing, they are not following their own words. And I think it's a shame also that people that have in the last 40 years don't know about Mrs. Voss, and that Mrs. Voss has done more single-handedly to improve living conditions in this town than I would not be afraid to bet the entire population of this town has done today, cumulatively. And for them to want to tear that building down because it's an eyesore, according to what they said in the newspaper several months ago, it was an eyesore. It's not an eyesore compared to a lot of the other buildings in town. They're just, I think nearby business owners don't like it for whatever reason, and they want to see it tore down when there's other structures. My biggest point would be Bill Page's building since 2012 has been enveloped in chain link fences and connexes since 2012.
Yeah.
Why isn't that not a headache and an eyesore? Look at this, look at the building we're sitting in right now. You can't even go up and down the stairs out here. The front facade, the wood is all warped back and peeled. This building's an eyesore too, if you want to call Mrs. Voss's an eyesore. So all I'm trying to say is there's a lot of other buildings in worse shape than Mrs. Voss's to the naked eye.
Yeah.
So I don't see why we should tear down a building that has such historic value to it. Woodland Park has got a history of tearing down historic buildings, and I think it's a horrible, horrible shame. And Woodland Park now has a chance to save a building rather than tear it down. And I wish they would move on that.
Okay, you guys kind of know how we feel.
I just want to throw one more thing in.
Yeah.
What was the group that we met with on Monday at the Miramont?
Oh, that coalition, the museum coalition.
So we went down to the Miramont on last Monday and, met with a bunch of different historic societies.
HD Coalition of Historical
Mhm.
Societies.
And when Steve introduced himself, he happened to mention the fact that the city of Woodland Park was considering demoing the Voss building, and there was a public audible gasp by everybody in that room.
Everybody in that
Like,
room.
how could you even think of that? So I think that's another part of what we're going through is the repercussion if this discussion goes forward without public awareness of what the options are. Because there's a whole lot of people out there that aren't aware of what's going on, and they need to be aware of what's going on. And I personally feel like this building has been publicly shamed in the newspaper twice. And that's how we started having this conversation about why aren't there other buildings in this town that are being publicly shamed? So for me, as a citizen, it makes me question the validity of the DDA and if there's a conflict of interest that's taking place. Because that building is being singled out where there are a whole lot of examples of other very ugly buildings in this town that are not being singled out. So, that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
One more thing, I have a luncheon with Tony Perry this coming Monday, and the topic is Mrs. Vaz's building, and I'm gonna try and persuade him, as I know he's not the chair anymore or the president, but he's the main guy there. I'm gonna try and, I got a lot of photographs to show him and things and history, and I'm gonna try to change his mind and convince him that the building needs to be saved.
Okay. Cool.
And I'm doing that as a private individual, not representing anybody, but just me and a friend of mine having lunch together, talking about that building.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, we're down to reports, committee member reports. Let's start with Larry.
If you haven't seen it, I'm a happy camper. A news article about the council waking up. Linda was there. This is for the archives. I don't know whether you put them in archives.
Sure.
But I am thrilled to be back on for 4 more years. I did disturb the city council when I said, what is a chivalry? And not a soul raised their hand in the audience or anything. I said, this is why I'm here, to educate you people. And so they had to have a lesson on chivalrying. And they said, this is the way life was when I arrived, because I was chivalry. And there's a heritage. And this is why we have to have historical preservation and education at the same time. And I don't know whether you read the article, but then I shared about the family that had the ranch north of Town Way, and there's a muddy year, and they had to be wagoned in. And these bandits came out with their masks and robbed the people as they were going to Aunt Ethel's. And they arrived at Aunt Ethel's, and they said, you know what happened? They were all in panic. She said, well, just go to the table and find what was stolen. That's where you sit at the table today. I think, how creativeness of people at that time. So there's no questions about anything. My qualities, as at the previous 4 years ago, they questioned my validity as being on the committee. So I went full circle for it. So thank you for your time.
So just, Karen, usually appointments, we usually do it in January. Did we just put this on the agenda early?
We just moved it ahead.
We just got it done ahead of time.
So it just makes January easier. Otherwise, if the work starts in January, you have to wait for the council.
I was just surprised.
It was actually good did CJ speeded the whole thing up? He said, get your application in, it can be in by the meeting. I thought,
Well, Larry and I are the ones going to Saving Places, so we better be official committee members.
Yeah, you better be. So, okay, all right, cool.
Larry,
Anything else, Larry?
Larry,
Thank you, congratulations,
Yeah.
another 4
Larry.
years.
Larry, in people my age, we still gave chivalries in Lake George. Throughout the 1970s, we were still doing chivalry in
Really?
Lake George. Yeah.
but I thought, it's a heritage loss. But the classic was, I was at a chivalry and they wheelbarrowed the wife down 24. And when we had all our noisemakers, and then we were treated at a restaurant with coffee and whatever. But the husband wheeled the wife with a big old construction wheelbarrow all from Vector Bank all the way down. I mean, these things are not newspaper items, but there was a heritage of the people and what they were doing at that time. A nice heritage on top of that.
Thank you. Eric,
I have nothing. That,
thank you.
I just have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So we, on this committee, have term limits, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we do.
Why? What
Because,
happens when we all run out of our terms?
because a couple years ago, there was a council mentality that felt that we should have term limits on all of our committees, and
I see this one disintegrating.
it does, and it will, and there is a charter review committee that is either, has been populated and sat, that Suzanne Leclerc is working on, or is about to be sat, and I submitted a query to Suzanne to say, can we reconsider term limits? Because there are specific requirements. So for example, we have an architect requirement, we have some historical knowledge and present, specifically, and it's like, really? We're gonna lose continuity, you're gonna lose all sorts of things. And so so if you guys would like to get hold of Suzanne, because I believe that's the person to get hold of, because she's in charge, I believe, of the Charter Review Committee coming up, that's how it would be reconsidered to bring it back up, right? Am I
I
talking
definitely think
correctly?
we should go full force on that. I started thinking
Well, I
about
need
how many,
help to do it. I've already put in a jab, so
And that
I
was
need
with
more
Suzanne.
jabs.
okay, I'll jab.
Jab, thank you.
Well, I mean,
No, you're right.
it's a 2 terms,
2 terms,
It's
2
2
full
terms.
years.
so at the end of my term,
You're
that's
done.
it.
That's right.
I'm done.
And I'm gonna be done.
And
So who's
Whenever
gonna replace
mine's
it?
up.
I mean,
And
then
we
probably,
lose, we lose all sorts of and
Yeah.
probably Dave is right,
Yeah.
gone
so
too.
that the whole committee is essentially gone.
That's exactly right. And we do
We're
not have,
volunteers.
well, and we don't have a litany of people trying for these positions.
Well,
We
and-
never have.
And we've already had the discussion that at the moment, we're being left out of any political,
Yeah,
policy
exactly.
making.
So,
So we really have no clout.
no, we really
So
don't.
why
So my next,
limit our term?
so, well, here's the other thing then. So let's eliminate the Historical Preservation Committee if you're not gonna utilize us.
Well, that seems like that's what
Let's
the
get
goal
rid of
is.
it. We can turn us loose to go to other committees.
Yeah, okay. I will help you with that.
Thank you. Next question.
Next question is, we missed the early enrollment for Saving Places. So now enrollment is at full price. The last day for early enrollment was yesterday. So now we are into the regular enrollment period. We don't know if there's funding available, or are we gonna be within our $700 budget, isn't it?
I thought we made decisions at our last meeting to go ahead with,
The scholarship
things.
opportunities.
I didn't do the registration until I went through the city council meeting. I didn't want to register if I didn't know if I was gonna be approved.
So, as far as the money goes for the conference, so I slated for 3 slots, or applied for 3 slots. That's full price. That gets you access to every day, including the Saturday of the camp. For CLG members, that was $225, I believe. So we applied for $675, if I remember right. So I talked to Lindsay yesterday, so the deadline's tomorrow, and hopefully she said she'll have what they allocate next week.
Okay.
So we should know next week how much money we're getting, and then obviously we can try to supplement some with the.
Because we have 700 in the budget, which won't cover 3 people.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with when you read the fine print with the scholarships, you cannot apply for the scholarship money if you, as far as lodging goes, if you live less than 60 miles away, which we all do. So none of that scholarship money would go to, it would just go to your registration fees, which is the $225.
Yeah. So should we, have you registered yet, Larry?
No, I didn't know I had to register yet.
In the past, planning's registered for us.
Right.
Because I registered both of my times and then got reimbursed. I paid for everything and then got submitted for reimbursement.
A year later.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm bringing it up, just to see what are we doing, because between now and next meeting, we should probably be registering.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm just asking.
So you'll know about the scholarship tomorrow.
Sometime next week, she said.
Oh.
Early next week, because the deadline is tomorrow, EOB, I'm guessing. So sometime next week, I'm sure we'll get an email saying congratulations or sorry.
So when do you have to register by?
Well, as far as the
early bird is passed.
early bird's gone.
So what about?
I mean, I think you can probably register right up
You
until
can
the day
register.
before.
The day
Yeah,
of.
you can walk right in.
So
Yeah.
maybe we should wait to hear about the
Yeah, so,
scholarships, and then CJ, if you just get on the horn to us and let
Sure.
us know.
Yeah, I can-
Email.
I'll send out a group email sometime next week or whenever I hear from Lindsay, because obviously we have to wait on her first. And then I can send out a group email saying, hey, we got allocated X amount of funds, and then I'll talk to Karen internally to see if we can just register you guys, and so.
So you apply for 3.
Who's the third person? Are you gonna go, Lori?
I think I had said I would.
But the other part of this, Linda, you got great feedback around the timing of the scholarships versus the early bird registration and such. So I think we're going to relay that to Lindsay, that in an ideal world, they would make their scholarship decisions at least a week in advance of when that early bird expires.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think we will share that with Lindsay in terms of how to maybe finesse their process in future years. And
Or
then,
how about guilt them into giving us the early bird?
oh, and like you say, try and, see what we can do about, a discount. So, no, thanks for that feedback.
And just in regards to the whole lodging thing, if I go, I would go Wednesday and Thursday, because you already know you're going to go Friday.
Right.
And then I would consider going to the Saturday one too. But I am going to get a room because I can't drive at night. But the bigger issue is you don't go to every single session. And I'm not one for just sitting in a lobby and waiting an hour or two between the sessions that are viable to me. So I'm going to get a room. So does that something that I'm just going to have to pay for? Or if we get the scholarship, so it'd be one night, Wednesday night. If we get the scholarship, the funding can go towards the registration, but and anybody can hang out in that room if they're going down there in between sessions. I don't care. But we saw a lot of people last year just sitting in the lobbies, just looking bored to tears. And they probably would have preferred going and putting their feet up for an hour in between sessions. So is that something that this committee would cover if we get the scholarship to pay for the registration? Could something like that be covered?
Ideally, I'd need to visit with Aaron about that. I'm not sure if the city has policies around distance, just as like the state does. If there's a distance requirement before when the city is willing to pay for a room or not associated with a conference. I'm just not sure, and we didn't get a chance to run that down prior to this meeting, so we will be asking that question for you.
The city ought to be down on their knees thanking these people that are going, that keeps their CLG going.
Well, Karen didn't rule it out, Steve. She just has to check with Aaron.
Yeah,
first, so,
I'm just
like-
wanted to make a comment, but these people are volunteering to do something that the city should be thankful for them for doing.
Okay, so you're gonna let us know
Yeah,
with an email.
definitely.
Okay.
That's good. That's
Anything
it.
else?
That's all I needed.
Steve? David, anything to share?
Wasn't new.
Okay, what I have to share is the Ute Inn has been sold, and I understand Jason Mikesell has bought it. So our sheriff has now bought the second liquor out bar in Main Street. Murph has moved all of his kitchen equipment and absolutely everything that wasn't nailed down out, because it was all his, because he invested in it. And he has patents and trademarks on the name, the Historic Ute Inn, from what I understand. And so Mikesell's not going to be able to necessarily use the term historic unless, of course, somebody can maybe cough up some money or something. So it's kind of all up in the air. So just so you guys know, and I'm hoping if that's really the case and Mikesell's got it, that we could be dealing with an owner and can move forward for historical designation and also have a conversation about don't touch that damn bar in there or destroy it, you know, type of thing.
Did Merv own it or was he?
No,
leasing
Murph
it?
was leasing
Okay,
it.
that's what I thought.
The owner of the property, the last I knew, was an out of towner.
They moved back, by the way.
Yeah.
Say what?
He was-
They moved back.
Did
Mike
they? Okay,
Mueller,
so
they
maybe,
moved
oh,
back up there, but then they might have to leave again.
They were
That's
at-
just my knowledge.
They were at that function at the cultural center. What were we at the cultural center a few weeks ago, Larry?
I didn't even.
I can't remember.
Oh,
I can't remember.
the Bride
Oh,
Awards
the Bride Awards.
The Bride
Awards.
The owner of the U was there.
was there?
So
Okay,
he's around someplace.
he's around someplace. So my understanding is Jason Mikesell bought it. Okay? I don't know, so keep your ears out as to what's going on so we can, because that's right in the middle of the block, and that was one of the things that we struggled as a committee getting designated was Ute. Because Murph always wanted nothing to do with us and he always deferred to the owner. So might be a different opportunity now. So that's what I have to add to that. That's all that I have, and we're missing our council person. He's
Yeah.
probably still recovering,
Change it
isn't
in a
he?
minute.
From surgeries?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Smitty's probably still recovering. Didn't he have knee surgery or
Yeah.
hip surgery or something?
Knee surgery.
Knee
I
surgery.
have it.
Okay, okay, good. CJ, have you got a report for us?
My only report was for the application we sent in the other day regarding Saving Places Scholarship, so I already talked about that, so we're good to go.
No, I have one other question. I sent you information about where to get plaques and where we had gotten them before historically. Did you get a chance to contact that company?
No, I have not contacted them, that's on my list of things.
Because we don't have any idea about the cost, and we put stuff in our budget based on
Yeah.
the dart against the wall. And so we wanted to go back to them, and they should have a complete file of all our artwork and everything else. So that, I don't want us to lose sight of that too, because we need to know what those costs would be. Anybody have anything else? If not,
I'll see you at the house tour on Saturday and Sunday. I'll be PR and preservation if I get a listening ear.
all right,
I'm doing the house out of Westwood Lake.
are you? Okay.
I'll see you out there. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday.
When's our next meeting, guys? January?
January
January 7th.
Okay. January 7th?
Yes, it's the 7th.
7th, January 7th. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Love that.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.